Hi there, and welcome to the Business Growth Factor. My name is Lyndon Smith, and I'm joined today by Joshua Lyyenhorst, and we're going to be having conversations about building better businesses. Today's episode, we're going to be discussing core values and why having core values are important in your business. I'm going to hand over to Josh. You want to maybe just do a quick intro on who you are, your business, what you do?
Sure, yeah. My name is Josh Lyyenhorst, and I'm the founder at Base Point Accounting and Finance. And so we just offer accounting and virtual CFO solutions for businesses, primarily in Canada here. So yeah, let's talk values. This is a bit of an area that you work with a fair amount in what you do, Lyndon. And so, yeah, maybe as a good starting point as we discuss this topic, can you maybe like define maybe what values are before we start going down the details of why they're important?
Okay. Yeah. So values. When you're outlining your values in your business, it's kind of it's you're always going to start with your commitment, your purpose. Line that up with your vision and your mission. You got to get to a point where you need to have clearly outlined values for your team. This kind of it becomes your roadmap for your team on how to behave as a team, how to behave out there with your clients, how we behave, as an organization, and really, it really ties into what you're committed to as a whole, as a group. Um, is that
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I
good
just
question?
wanted to get like a bit of an operational definition, just so before we start diving into a discussion on values in general. I just wanted to yeah, land on a bit of a definition there, I suppose. So
Yep.
yeah, so why yeah, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but like why would it be important then for businesses to be able to define their values specifically? Like, can they just have some generic values? Or I know sometimes, and before we hopped on the call here, we talked about, how some companies just kind of workshop their values, and then, I've seen it before, those kind of throw the values up on the wall, but they don't necessarily translate into, the operations of the company. Like, why is it important then for businesses to define their values?
So your values should translate into your team's daily actions. Why it's important is if they don't have a compass to guide them on, this is who we are, this is how we behave. You may have opposing values in your company, and that becomes a little tricky to deal with at times. That's where there's conflict and where people are maybe on a different page or just not aligned, and it gets a little challenging to work through some of those details. When you have core values in place, excuse me,
No
when you
problem.
have core values in place, it allows you to make much better decisions. So it's decisions that are aligned with the values of your company. So when you're hiring a new staff member, team member, you can, and you're interviewing them, you can see, are they a good fit, not just for the role or function that they're going to be fulfilling in the company, but also, are they a good fit for our team and the values that are they aligned with our values? And every client that I work with, I always encourage them to go back to their core values. A lot of them don't have it, and that's where we got to get into a little bit more of the weeds and get that dialed in. Um, and then you can go back and say, all right, this is who we're looking for, this is the behavior, this is the person that we're looking at bringing on board.
Right.
um, if you
So
don't have,
just
yeah.
I'm curious, Lyndon, sorry to cut you off there, but for a company that doesn't have their values defined, and maybe this is getting into the weeds a little bit, but maybe you have a bit of a generic way of approaching it. What's the best way to maybe land on some values, and how
Yeah.
many values, right? Should you have 20? Should you have five, six? And how would you go about getting those, right?
It's a great question, and I think a lot of companies end up with around or close to 10 core values. I think there's some overarching components to consider there. So my recommendation is something between 4 and 6 core values in your company, and how to get there is think about the values that are important to you as the owner or the ownership structure of the team or the business. Think about the values that are key to your business becoming successful. Think about the values that are core to your clients' projects being successful or their jobs being successful, and values that are also key to ensuring that your team want to do better and strive for more. So if you can think of those values and align those values to, like with your business, and get those core values in place, you can come up with a term, a word, or whatever that fits with that. But they're all going to be kind of interlinked or woven in together in some way or form. If you use the word integrity, for example, it will overlap with so many other different words.
Right.
So one of our values at our company, Expansive Edge, is impact. And when we start unpacking impact, there's a whole lot more values that live in that. But the core value there is impact, and really the impact that we're out to make in the communities that we work in, or the communities that we serve, the businesses that we work with, and our team. We really want to have an impact in every space that we're operating in.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So can you give like maybe a bit of an example of even, so use integrity, I suppose, is one, but like, so you're saying it could be a word. I've seen maybe like businesses use phrases.
Yeah.
Okay. You can then. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I want to use an example, but I don't know if I can.
Maybe without saying specific names, I suppose,
yeah.
is
Companies that I've worked with before have used values around who they're being. So, being real, for example. So just being real in every engagement that you have. So that is kind of like a way of being in the company. So that's how they create their values and structure their values.
okay. Yeah.
Another thing that you could look at is like customer centricity. So we value putting the customer first. And what does that look like? Just unpacking that, really getting into the weeds of that.
So not just having like a phrase or a word, but even like unpacking that a little bit more, so it's a bit more defined.
Like a statement around that, right?
Okay.
Yeah. It kind of almost leans into being a guarantee in a sense, but because this is who we are, and this is how we guarantee we're going to behave, right?
Right. So is it like a code of conduct almost, or would that be something different altogether?
A code of conduct is completely different, but yes, the answer is yes. It is like a code of conduct, because when you hire someone into your business, you're effectively saying these are our values and this is how we behave as a team, right? And when it comes to taking disciplinary action, or performance reviews or anything like that, if you need to dismiss someone on your team or terminate the engagement with them, you simply having that conversation along the way, you're showing them that they're not a good fit for the business, because this is who we are and you're not aligning with that. We operate with integrity, you're not aligning with that. So when you're mapping out your KPIs and everything else, and they're not aligning with that, or maybe there's a communication issue, hey, we value putting communication first, putting our customer first, whatever those values come out to be. You can have a conversation and you can just weave it back into your values, for example. So you're taking a human approach to it and tying it into like your pillars that you've set out for your company.
Right. Okay. And so you kind of touched on it a little bit, but like, how then would values play into decision making for a business?
That's a good question. And I mean, there could be a whole lot of different contexts around this. And I'm gonna use an example of a company here in the incubator with us. They do biochar, and as a byproduct, or I'm not exactly sure how it works, but you can use that for explosives or bombs. And one of their values is no harm. I think it was just no harm. So that's one of their values. So they're using that value to make a decision not to do business. Oh, there we go. Give me a second. I value having light in the office here,
Yeah,
and we've got some triggers that. All right. So their value of no harm is what guides them and the decisions that they make and the clients that they bring on in their company. Now, when you're doing your quarterly planning, or you're looking at some marketing initiatives, maybe what type of clients you're targeting, you can see, are they aligned with your values? Maybe you're looking at doing some not PR, corporate social responsibility, so some marketing around that, and doing some good stuff for the community. See what aligns with those values as well.
It's interesting how, with the example that you gave, there's intentionality behind something where they saw the potential for there to be a problem. And it's like they kind of put a bit of a fence post in place where it's like, this is what we value.
Yeah,
You don't go past here, right? It's almost like,
yeah,
yeah, setting up fence posts a little bit, parameters that people operate within, I suppose.
yeah. And sometimes it's hard because like you're in business, and you want to make money, but those are the values that are going to guide you. And like you just like you say, you don't step over that fence, or you don't climb over that fence. It kind of
Right. So it's like filters for decision making, essentially. At the end of the day, is sort
yeah,
of the idea.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then this also, we kind of touched a little bit about this as well, it sounds like, but as far as like how values drive like culture, like the culture of a company, um, what does that look like?
So yeah, I think I'm trying to think of an example here. Sorry.
No problem.
So how your values drive the culture in the company. If you don't have values, um, your values do kind of guide your culture in your company. If you don't have those values, your team are going to decide for you what your culture looks like and what your values are. If you have no values, the problem is, if you have those values and you don't have a strong enough leadership team to actually execute and reinforce those values in the company, people are just going to, like, they're not going to treat it very well. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you when we were chatting earlier or on this call, but I'd argue that, or if I had to hazard a guess, I think probably about 70 or 80% of the people listening to this, they've got values established in their business, but no one's kind of reinforcing those values um, proactively, right? No one's
Okay.
really stepping in there and reinforcing those values proactively in the business. Like, understanding what does it mean to our core value of impact, or our core value of no harm, or our core value of integrity, or our core value of communication, whatever, however you're bringing those values across. What does that mean? And how are we applying that, or demonstrating that, or letting that resonate through our business? How do we actually continually or introduce that into our business, so that our team actually resonate and connect with those values that we have?
So it's almost like, if you end up workshopping out the values, you have it leave the workshop, it goes onto the wall, the proverbial wall, right?
Yeah.
Values are on the wall. So then I guess it comes down to like, how do you get them off the wall and into the day-to-day operations and into
Mhm.
the way people act? Like so how would you do that? Like, what would be the best way for a company to make sure that their values are actually guiding decision making and are influencing culture in a way, culture, I say like culture of the company in a way that they want it to?
Well, it all starts with the leadership. So, hey, we don't behave like that here, or we this is not who we are as a team, or just when there's those taps on the shoulders, addressing them immediately. When people are out of line, addressing it in a reasonable manner or sense. Um, one of the ways that we did that in our company is we would have like our weekly sort of meetings. We'd step in, and whoever's leading the meeting would take one of our core values and literally say, how has someone on the team sort of demonstrated one of our core values? We'd pick one,
Okay.
and we'd do like a round table, and be less than a minute. And Charles or Joe or Josh can chime in and say, I want to acknowledge someone on the team for demonstrating our core value of whatever it is, and this is an example of what happened there and what they did. So you're starting to get that. You're starting to reinforce that. People are starting to like listen and okay, this is who
Right.
we are. Are they connecting with that, right?
Like you're interacting with them, with the ideas, I suppose, instead of just having them listed somewhere. Like you're actually interacting with them intentionally and thinking through
Yeah.
examples that actually help
So
calcify that a little bit more.
so they're not just on the website where someone read them when they joined the company,
That's right. Yeah.
perhaps. Um, it's great to have them on the walls, just as a a reminder that like this is who we are, this is how we behave, this is this is what we value.
Right.
It's great to have it there as visual reminders, but there needs to be more. There needs to be more ways of actually reinforcing that in the business, and it comes back to leadership always. If the leadership are not demonstrating integrity or communication or whatever a value in the business is, and that becomes the acceptable norm, then that's how the team are going to behave. And then they're
Right.
just
It's like
not,
tone from the top, right?
yeah, they're not going to treat the values that they're there as, like, we're not serious about this. This is not,
Right.
we're actually, what's the laissez-faire, like, I don't know how to pronounce that, but,
Laissez faire. Yeah.
it's too loose, right? You got to
Okay.
tighten up on that culture. Yeah.
Okay. Um, what this might be an interesting question, but like what would be a good way for somebody to try to have those conversations with someone on their team? So say you have someone on your team who's not really acting in a way that's aligned with the values of the company, whether or not they're expressly stated. And maybe kind of another similar question would be, for a company that doesn't have their values established or defined yet, if they establish and define them, how do you, I mean, we kind of went here a little bit, but how do you deal with the fact that there may be people on your team who are not aligned with the values? Like, what does that look like in a kind of a practical example?
Yeah, so I'd say there's a bit of coaching that gets involved. I mean, always consider that there's a human on the other side there, and
Hmm.
just getting them present to like this is who we are. This is the way that you're behaving doesn't align or it's not a fit for who we are as a team, and just get them present to that. But if the behavior continues or it's not in alignment with your core values, and it has got an impact on the team and like the performance, then there's some coaching that would need to come into play. So
It's almost
there's a
like, I guess, objective criteria that you can assess
yeah.
behavior against, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think just like having that as a benchmark to say, like this is again who we are. This is how we behave. These are the rules that we kind of like play within here. And I'm trying to think of an example of where that, like maybe there's a deadline that was missed, or maybe there's an employee that comes to work late, and that doesn't kind of fit with the rest of the team. One of the companies that I work with, Trainual, one of their core values is always show up prepared or ready, something along those lines. And what that means is, when you're having your meeting and you're doing a presentation, put in the work, make sure that you show up prepared and ready.
Right.
Um,
That's a good one that everyone should adopt. Hey.
Yeah, and it's like doesn't matter what you got to do to show up prepared and ready, but then they've got other values that also align with that. So, for example, if you have integrity and you know that you cannot show up prepared and ready, just be in communication. So at the earliest opportunity, you're sharing with the next person or the person that you've committed to getting something done with. You just communicate with them. A simple text message, an email, a phone call. Hey, I'm not going to make it on time. Something's come up, or I simply don't have the capacity for it. Whatever it is, just be
Right.
in communication with them. Have that integrity around what you're doing. So to answer your question, or to go back to the question, if there's a person that's not doing that or not aligning with the values, just step into coaching them. So getting them present, There's a focused coaching approach, which I'll share maybe in another one of these episodes here. But the first part is just creating the awareness, right? Creating awareness, making sure that they're ready to take the responsibility for it, making sure that they know how to do it, um, and then checking what's getting in the way, what's interfering, and then you can see whether they need support, or like they're going to they're going to commit to the action, but do they need support? Do they need to be challenged? And then sort of coaching them through that. And if you're still not getting results out of them, like again, it's moving through that coaching and performance management process.
Right. I think that comment about awareness is pretty key, because um, I've seen it before just over the years, different environments where there's not even an awareness made of the issue before there's maybe corrective action trying to be implemented, and the person's like, I didn't even know this was a thing, right? So yeah, that initial conversation about perhaps misalignment with the values is an important first step there.
And that's quite sad. Like what you've mentioned right there is that's just poor leadership, right? So when you're taking corrective action, and you haven't even created that awareness with the individual,
Right.
it's you haven't given them an opportunity to correct their behavior or to align with the values of the business. It could be a salesperson, it could be an ops person. It doesn't matter who it is in the company, but in some way or another, they're not performing, or they're not behaving in a way that aligns with the company's values.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that awareness is that's the first step. Like when someone walks in late, like I showed up a little bit late for this call today. I think like
I didn't want to throw you under the bus on that one, Lyndon. I thought I wouldn't mention it, but
yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's you called me out on it. You sent me a message, said, "Hey, is this still happening?" So and that's exactly the type of leadership that companies need. Is hey, I noticed you missed this deadline or this deliverable, or you were late for work, or whatever it is. We're not here to micromanage you, but like we need to make sure that that you're in alignment with who we are as a team, because otherwise that just keeps on slipping and slipping. And when the time comes that you actually have to address it, you haven't created that awareness, and you're just going in for the kill, and you're like,
yeah.
fine, fed up. I don't want him on my team or her on my team anymore.
Right.
Like you just you're done with them, and it's like that's coming out of left field, completely out of left field. So you really want to create that awareness before before you got to take proper action.
And I suppose getting to what you're just kind of talking about there, if it goes on for too long, it can also start to, I suppose, impact other people on the team as well.
Oh, yeah,
right?
absolutely. So if it goes unaddressed, you're starting to erode the culture in your business, because if you're letting it slip with one person, other people are seeing that for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely seeing it. Yeah. So they're gonna be like, well, if he can get away with this, like,
right,
I can do it too. And then that's when your whole leadership structure starts slipping away. and then you've got to call a big meeting, get everyone together, rally them up, and just get everybody back in line again. And you can avoid that just by simply, when you get that tap on the shoulder, it's like, hey, this is you're out of line here.
Yeah. We a place I used to work at, we used to refer to those as 1 degree corrections. And so if you saw something was off, just address it right away, just a little correction, rather than having to give it 6 to 8 months or whatever and have them try to reel it in at that point, right? It's a lot more difficult.
It's gross. You don't want to have to deal with that at that point, right?
Yeah.
It becomes messy it becomes an HR issue.
Yeah.
And I think it's just have the good lead, be a good leader. Just be in communication with your team. Take a look at your values. Use your values as guiding principles for the rest of the business. If you have someone on your team that's not performing or not getting it done, just go back to those values. Like, where are they not in alignment with those values? Call them in. Say, hey, like this is what I've recognized. This is this is what the impact is on the rest of the team, and that's really important, because it's not about you and how you feel about them. It's really about the impact that their behavior is having on the rest of the business, uh,
Right.
the rest of the team. So if and you can just say, like, if we don't address this and it becomes acceptable, it starts eroding the culture that we're trying to develop, or that we're developing in this company, or that we have developed in the company.
Right. And
So
I suppose if you set up a regular cadence to meet with your team,
yeah,
like once a month or once every few weeks or something, like each person individually, it can maybe provide the environment to at least have those conversations instead of pardon me, having to be like, hey, we need to have a conversation here, right? We can
yeah,
actually just kind of have those little corrective conversations, little one degree discussions on a more
absolutely.
regular basis.
I think one of the biggest things that I've come across in companies is, and it's great that they're doing it, but it's probably not the best way of doing it. They do like an annual performance review, and
You know what happens in advance of that is like someone knows it's coming up and they're like, hey, the next 4 weeks, I'm just going to crush it at work, because then the recency effect comes into play for the annual performance review. And then that's what happens.
kind of like the last 11 months has no bearing
That's right. Yeah.
review. So the other problem with that is, you should be waiting a whole year to communicate with your team. That should be going ongoing all the time. You should be
Right.
doing like daily or at least weekly check-ins with everybody. And I'm talking about like a manager with their crew, or their team, or like someone who's maybe a director with their substructure that they've got. They don't have to go into like all the layers below them, but just check
Right.
it in with their team,
The direct reports.
giving them some feedback. Hey, how's it going? Like just a check in. Like, what's happening? How's it going? Where can I support you? And then also, check in some areas, because you want to challenge them. You want them to perform better. You always want to like push them a little bit harder, and
Right.
you want to be able to identify and have those conversations with them, so that they are, you know, pushing their limits a little bit more, and doing better, because that's what a leader does. Like, make people better. Take them out of their comfort zones, and make more leaders, I guess.
Yeah. Inspire them to be better. Right. We're getting tight on against the clock here, Lyndon. But just from a practicality perspective, what would some next steps be for businesses who want to take this a little bit more seriously, just given the impact that it has on decision making and shaping culture with intention? Like what would some good next steps be?
A good question. I think the first couple of things that come to mind is, yeah. I mean, first, go and take a look at your values, and are you, as a leader, are you demonstrating those values in your company? Are you walking the walk, talking the talk? Are you are you really what you have outlined there? Is that you? Is that who you are in your business? And then take a look at then take a step back, look at your team, and see how they're aligning with those values. Maybe you need to rework those values. Maybe you put those values together when you started your business a couple of years back, and that's kind of just there because we wanted to tick a box. But now you can really revisit this and be purposeful about and intentional about the your values in your business, and really use those values to shape who you are as a team, and also to help you guide the decisions that you make moving forward in your business. So if something happens, if something goes wrong on site or on a job, or like, can we use our values to help us guide making a decision? Does it mean that I've got to go and call my manager or my supervisor, or are we empowered as a team to make certain decisions based on the values that we are in the company? So you start creating a bit more autonomy within your organization as well by having that approach. What other takeaways can I offer you here? Maybe you've got one, Josh, just from listening to or just engaging in this conversation.
Well, I was wondering, like, are there any resources out there that people could go to as well to maybe help guide them through the process?
Resources. I'm trying to think of anything. I'll prepare something. I'll drop it in the chat
Okay,
um, of our podcast episode, so you can go take a
sure.
look there. I'll get a couple of things together for the listeners. But yeah, I think just how to create those values. We'll put something in there.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, to get to your question just about anything that I've seen, I think the importance of staying true to the values, because that'll really help calcify. And I've seen it before where we're looking at hiring somebody, not a base point, a company I used to work for years ago, and a pretty senior level position that we were looking at hiring for. The person came in, they had fantastic qualifications, amazing experience, but just the personality, like very misaligned with the values. And so everyone was excited about the potential hire because like we really need this person like sitting in the seat. But our goal was not to just have a warm body in the seat with the qualifications. We
make
were
sure it's a good fit.
pretty intentional about the culture and the values. And
Yeah.
so when we had to communicate that no, we're not actually hiring this person, it came with the discussion that these things are actually important to us. Like these values are
Yeah.
important to us, and that really helps just reinforce what is important to us as a company. And yeah, those types of things just really help, in
Yeah.
shaping the culture as well.
It aligns with the compass, right? That your vision, your mission, your
Yeah.
purpose, your values. These are all your business's compass, and kind of sets the direction and the tone for everybody involved, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this has been very helpful, Lyndon. I appreciate your insight into this. And my takeaway from this is I'm at least going to go and revisit the values that we have listed to see how relevant they still are. So yeah, thank you for that. Any takeaways that you have?
I've shared my takeaways, and I'll share something in the chat as well that people can use. Yeah, just a little bit of a
Excellent.
guide. Yeah. All
Okay,
right.
well, thanks very much, Lyndon. And yeah, for everybody who's listening, hope that was helpful. Hopefully, you can take that and help shape some of the values for your business, which will help with your decision making as a filter and also help in shaping the culture of your business. And yeah, and then also keep an eye out for any other episodes that we have as we dive into other important topics about helping you do business better.
Mhm. Excellent, Josh. Thanks, and thanks to the listeners.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Cool. Take care.